Check one, two. Check, check. Check one, two. Check one, two. Check one, two. Check. Check one, two. Check one, two. Check, check. Check one, two.
Okay, it's time to get started. I'll call this regularly scheduled meeting of the Lawton City Council to order. Please stand for the invocation by Pastor Doug Passmore of First Baptist East and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pastor?
Father, thank you for this privilege we have called prayer, that we can come and lay requests before you, because right now we need a lot in our nation. Father, we pray for our national leaders. We pray that you give them wisdom, that they would bring us closer together, and that we might make decisions that would be helpful for our whole nation. We pray for this COVID that's just going around, that you would just bring healing and protection. And we pray especially today for this council, that they would be willing and able to make decisions that would affect our nation, our city, that we might be the city you want us to be. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, sir. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you, Pastor Doug Passmore. Please call the roll.
Hankins. Harris. Chapman. Burke. Hampton. Fortenbaugh. Johnson. Warren.
Okay, thank you. Now we move on to the reports by the mayor and city council. And I guess I'll start. My phone lit up today with notifications from KSWO saying that Lawton Public School and Cache are going virtual because of the number of absences. So I just want to say, please be careful. Everybody needs to do what they believe is right to protect themselves and protect society. So that's kind of my message today. Mr. Warren? Okay. Mr. Fortenbaugh?
I was going to say the same thing as the mayor just did. They sent my son home from Eisenhower High School, and he's frankly happy about it. But I know a lot of people that are getting infected right now, and it's out there right now, and it's bad. So we got to work.
Thank you. Ms. Chapman?
Yes, the Meadowbrook Hineswood Neighborhood Watch is going to be meeting on Monday, January the 24th at 7 p.m. at St. Paul's United Methodist Church, and Mayor Booker is our special speaker, and it's on your calendar.
Okay, thank you. I look forward to that. And Councilman Harris, doesn't that sound good?
Yes, it really does. I'd just like to say two things. One, I'm very honored and proud to be a part of this august body, and thanks for giving me, everybody who's given me their best wishes, and I look forward to working with all of you.
And Ms. Hankins. Okay, thank you guys. Now we'll move on to audience participation. Anyone having an item of business to present to the City Council that does not appear on the agenda, please come forward at this time. And we know who you are, but we still need your name and address for the record.
My name is Alberto Rivas. I live at 25 Northwest 53rd Street. And before I read what I have written on here, I do want to tell you that I love most of you, and I respect all of you. And know that I say this from my heart, and that I do love this community, and I know that you all love this community. But there is something that is just too obvious to not speak on in this community. And I know I don't have that much time, so I'm going to read this, and I might start reading quickly like Ricky Ricardo, because I'm Hispanic and I can do that real quick just like that. So if I were to be standing here 3 years ago, it probably would be in a different light. But unfortunately, a lot has changed for many of us, and for the most part, fortunately, has changed. For me, it has been my mindset. 3 years ago, you couldn't convince me otherwise that we lived in the greatest city in Oklahoma. But as I continue to watch friend after friend, colleague after colleague, young family after young family, leave and not be a military move, it forces one to stop and think why. You all as council have been chosen by the people of Lawton to lead us into the future. But still you're in the position for a reason, and I think we can all say each of us love our community and the people in it. In fact, that's the number one thing we always say. The people are what make our community. Very true. Even the data analyst at the LEDC luncheon mentioned how many times that people mentioned it's the people that make Lawton Fort Sill. Again, very true. But we have to realize at some point that people do not make a physical city. That people do not move to a city where they do not know the people that make our city so wonderful. We are losing people. Right now, it's been said that we have decreased by over 2% in population with this last census. Heck, even our former communications relations director left for a better thriving community in Oklahoma. And she's a young professional. I digress. For the last year, I've received a number of messages week after week of people in the community expressing their concerns with the city, city government, and city council. Even more so in the last couple of weeks. What I think you all need to be reminded of is who got you into the seats that you're sitting in right now. And you have to start engaging the community more. I'm sorry, I'm losing my place here. As a whole and more often, actually have discussions with the people that you were elected to serve and not just your small circles. Be more transparent and quit going into executive sessions so many times. No other city that I've spoken to goes into executive session as many times as this city does. If you all do better as a council, we will do better as a community. And maybe then we'll start seeing a difference. The data analysis that I mentioned earlier said one thing that stuck out to me most. The thing that's making community thrive and turn around from a poor, for not a so great city to a great city is what they're calling hipsterification. I think it would do us all some good if we started listening to the professionals rather than what we think is right, because clearly we see that it's not working.
Okay, your time is up.
Yeah.
Can you wrap it up real quick?
Yes, I can. The last thing I'll say is I had to take a vacation day to be here, and in my opinion, having council meetings at 2 p.m. is suppression of the working class. The working class has to either take a personal day or non-paid time off to be here. I had to take a vacation day to be here. So 2 o'clock council meetings is suppression of the working class that cannot take a day off, especially during the pandemic when they're having to work 40 plus hours a week and more, work their butts off. And they can't even take time off to be here because it would be unpaid for the majority of them.
Okay.
So it needs to go back to 6 o'clock.
We're way over. Thank you for
thank
coming. Is there anybody else that would like to come and address the council on an item that is not on the agenda? And there are none, so we'll move on. Conduct election of Mayor Pro Tem. Do we have a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to nominate Randy Warren. He's the longest-term member, probably best informed.
Okay, and we do that in the form of a motion, so that's a
Yes,
motion.
I'm sorry.
To elect Randy Warren as the Mayor Pro Tem. Is there a second?
Second.
And we have a second. Discussion or debate? Please vote. And the motion passes 5-0. And the motion carries. Congratulations. Now we move on to the consent agenda. The following items are considered to be routine by the City Council and will be enacted with one motion. Should discussion be desired on an item, that item will be removed from the consent agenda prior to action and considered separately. Had a request to pull 3, 6, and 7. Are there any other items that you would like to pull, Council?
9.
9? Okay, so 3, 6, 7, and 9. Any others, council? Do I have a motion?
Council, Mayor, I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda as provided with the exception of items 3, 6, 7, and 9.
Do we have a second? Please vote. And the motion carries 5-0. That puts us on item number 3. Consider approving an agreement with Comanche Renewables LLC for a landfill gas beneficial use project, approving the revenues from the project to be deposited into an account for city solid waste operations, and authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute the agreement. Larry Walcott.
An RFP was issued for a landfill gas beneficial use project earlier last year. And this is basically to take our gas that's generated at the landfill from decomposition of solid waste and utilize that gas in a more beneficial way. In the past, it's just been flared with an open flare, and we've also been able to monetize credits that are carbon credits by doing so. Since the methane is harmful to the atmosphere, by flaring it and marketing those carbon credits, we were able to produce some amount of revenue. Since that time, basically over the last decade, we've been doing that since 2013. We've been looking at ways to not only continue to reduce that impact to the atmosphere, but also to increase the benefit that the city receives from that gas. And so there's some other different ways that landfill gas can be refined and utilized. And so this project would be to take that gas, improve it, take out harmful chemical constituents, increase its quality, and then inject it directly into the natural gas pipeline system. And that would be done by a contractor. And then the city would then in turn receive gas royalties from that project.
What is the potential income?
It's all based on natural gas prices. It's directly connected with the market. And so as natural gas price rises, the city will receive additional revenue. But based on today's range, we'd be looking at somewhere between $350,000 to $500,000 annually.
All right, that's pretty exciting. Council, do you have any questions for Larry?
Yes. Where do you propose, I saw that it goes into the solid waste account, but what are you anticipating the usage of that revenue to be?
One big purpose for that revenue would be purchase of equipment. When we're talking about solid waste processing equipment, whether it's a collection truck or a compactor or a dozer, those are items that cost $350,000 to $800,000 to purchase, and that comes from a rolling stock account that also impacts how many police cars we can buy annually, for example, or fire trucks or other city vehicles. This revenue could help subsidize that and purchase that solid waste equipment directly.
I just have one comment, and I realize I'm the new guy on the block, but when I was campaigning, one of the most heard comments from my constituents was of course about the twice a week solid waste pickup, and I said, look, we're not going back to that. Just get over it. I said, but would you settle for a second trash can? And most of them said, yeah, that'd be great. And I would propose that we might take some of this money and reduce or eliminate the cost if someone needs a second can at their home, that we would look at a way to relieve some of the burden on the citizens with it.
Additionally, we have a representative from Comanche Renewables here as well, if you have any questions for them.
Council?
I make a motion to approve.
Motion to approve, is there a second? Second. Here's a second. Discussion or debate? Please vote. Motion carries 5-0. Moves us to item number 6. Consider accepting the water line, fire hydrants, and easements on north and west sides of Cash Road Square Shopping Center. I pulled this to state conflict of interest as I'm a principal in that property.
I make a motion to approve.
Motion on the floor, is there a second?
Second.
And a second. Discussion or debate? Please vote. Motion carries 5-0. Item number 7. Consider a request to pay a fee in lieu of stormwater detention for a commercial building permit located at 1700 Northwest Fort Sill Boulevard in the amount of $20. Kelly, did you pull this?
Yes, I did. I have a conflict with this, conflict of interest.
Okay.
Move to approve.
Motion for approval, is there a second? Second. There is a second. Discussion or debate? Please vote. So we're going to have to move this to the next one, I guess. Does this one need 5? We're going to pull this because with the abstention, we can't get 5 votes. So we're going to put it on the next agenda, okay? We'll have to put this on the next agenda. Hopefully we'll have more here. That moves us on to number 9. Number 9, consider adopting a resolution authorizing the installation and/or removal of traffic control measures at Southeast Interstate Drive and Southeast 7th Street. I believe Randy pulled this.
Council, I pulled it. It's going to be germane, but it's not really germane to the actual wording of the item. But within that item, there is a set of minutes from the Traffic Commission. And I might have been asleep that day or not paying attention or not here. But did the council have any input into the criteria at which the speed tables are installed or can be installed? And the reason I say that is because there's 4 criteria. The first being that it's a residential street, that it's not a collector street, it's not an arterial, it's not an arterial. The second is that the speed limit's got to be 25, which that makes sense because our residential areas are supposed to be 25. The third criteria is that 15% of the people driving up and down the road have to be driving 9 miles or more over the speed limit, which seems a little arbitrary to me. And then when you get to the fourth criteria, to me it's even worse. 600 cars have to pass by that street, on that street every day for it to meet the qualifications. So in theory, if you've got street X and it's got 580 people that drive 7 miles an hour over the speed limit, it's not going to qualify, which all just seems really arbitrary to me. The whole point of this was to slow people down in neighborhoods, and I don't know of many streets. The one example that they used at Traffic Commission was that day there were 4 requests. They were all denied. The only one that was actually heard by the commission was the one that happened to be for one of my constituents that had asked for it, and it was denied. One of the criteria that it did meet was that it had 601, but if it had 599, it wouldn't have met the criteria. Now, somebody might say, well, they would have taken that in consideration. Well, evidently not, because they didn't even hear the other 3. So I'm having a real problem with the Traffic Commission. From what I understand from legal, it's not a requirement that we even have a Traffic Commission. I don't know that it might not be more trouble than it's worth for staff. If we did away with the Traffic Commission, that's more time that staff's got to devote to other things. I don't know. I just know that the whole point of speed tables or speed bumps or whatever we're going to call them was to slow people down. And there's very few streets in our city where they're going to have 600 cars a day that pass by. So I would make a motion to approve this item But I would also like to ask the manager if he could look at this and see if there's any way that within the staff area that we could figure out a better way to do this, or maybe we just need to move speed tables to approval by the council. I don't really know what's the best way to do, but I would move that we approve this item, but I would ask the manager to do that if we can.
Okay, so there is a motion to approve this item. That is the motion, correct?
Correct.
Is there a second?
I'll second that. I had a comment too, if I'm allowed to do that. Along with what he's saying, to me, this should be like when the Planning Commission gives us recommendations to approve or deny. It still comes to the council, and more often than not, we'll accept what they say, but there may be an opportunity there where maybe we need to override what they said in a limited circumstances. So maybe routinely, traffic control issues should come up here to us.
Okay, and it does sound like we probably need an agenda item to discuss that. We do have a motion for approval of number 9, and we have a second. Do we have discussion or debate?
Yes. I'm confused a little bit, Randy. I thought they were requesting a yield sign. I didn't see anything about the traffic tables or.
They are, and that's why I moved to approve it. But when you click on that agenda item, it'll have the minutes from the Traffic Commission.
That would be if I had my iPad, but yes, okay. So,
But anyway,
actually, I do have I'm looking at those minutes.
And if you follow those minutes down, it just happened. The only reason I caught it was I knew the gentleman's name that requested it because he lives one street over from me, and he called me and asked what to do, and I said, well, go to the Traffic Commission, and,
Right.
and that's the only reason I even knew it was there because, his name popped out.
I just had a little confusion there, and you cleared it up. But I would like to say, I spent 8 years on the Traffic Commission, and generally, those people are pretty spot on about going out and looking at these items.
Okay, I think we need to have an agenda item to discuss the Traffic Commission.
Right.
Is there discussion or debate on this, what item number 9 is recommending?
I have no further discussion.
Seeing no further discussion, I'll call for a vote. Please vote. And the motion carries 5-0. That moves us into business items, and we're going to have a little change of order here and go to item number 21 because the FISTA chairman, Clarence Fortney, has some other things he has to get to. So we're going to move to item number 21 unless anyone objects. No objections. Consider approving an amendment to the agreement for funding and limited support for the FISTA Development Trust Authority for their 2021 and 2022 fiscal year to provide an additional $2 million to be used for the renovation of the space formerly known as the Sears Building to prepare the space for DoD contractors and other industrial development tenants. Rich.
Yes, Mayor, thank you. In July of 2021, you approved the current agreement for agreement for limited support with the FISTA Trust Authority, and in that agreement, there was $2.68 million to do some improvements on the project as well as fund part of their operation for this year. As you recall, it was it's actually ironic. It's only a year and 6 days ago that we closed on the then Central Mall, and now this Central Plaza, for the development of the FISTA. And so it's been a quick year, as a matter. I think it has been. So now they come back. They did some work on the project. They have some design. They've already done the interior demo of the Sears building and the Dillard's building, trying to develop that project. They developed one of the spaces in there, the old IBC Bank for what they call the BIC, which is the Business Integration Center. So they have some folks working out of that center. But this is for the main renovation of the first part of the main building, which is going to be the Sears building. They went out to bid on the project, and as what's happening these days, the bids came back high, and so they're here to request some additional funding. And the way that funding would be an amendment to their agreement which would add the $2 million they're requesting to to that funding agreement, to their budget for the current fiscal year. One important thing to note is that, while they have to have a commitment from the city for the entire amount in order to award the project, they certainly aren't going to spend all of that money by the end of this current fiscal year. So you'll actually see this in their next year's budget agreement that would come back for you in probably in May, June timeframe. So, but this is something that has to be approved now for them to award a project to move forward with renovation of the Sears building. Clarence Wharton is here he's the chairman of the FISTA. If you have any questions, he'd like to, I guess, present a little bit here.
Clarence, do you want to address us?
Yes, thank you. And if I can, I'd have a handout or some documents.
I'm assuming everybody got the letters of support from United States Senator James Inhofe and also Congressman Tom Cole.
And what you have before you is a copy of those two letters, as well as my brief that I'm going to use as an outline to try to keep me focused and then allow you to answer questions. And our Mark Brace, who's the assistant chair or deputy chair, do I need to get closer? Okay. It's really low. Really low. Testing, 1, 2, testing. Okay. Okay. Well, what I want to do is take just a brief few minutes and talk just a little bit about the reason for the FISTA, the trust authority under the city of Lawton. As a reminder, we've got a community just north of Lawton that's called Fort Sill. And Fort Sill has a primary mission of providing not only training, but opportunities to expand the services and delivery of the military for long-range precision fire and air and missile defense. And it was about 4 years ago that several of us from the chamber attended a meeting in D.C., and we started hearing about cross-functional teams. And during that time, we started hearing about 6 cross-functional teams that were identified for Army Futures Command. And during that time, we started hearing that there were communities looking to move the 2 cross-functional teams, long-range precision fire and air and missile defense, potentially to other communities. And just happenstance, we were in the D.C. area and had an opportunity to visit with some staffers from Inhofe, as well as Senator Inhofe himself, and said, that didn't make any sense. Why would you move those to other locations when those are the 2 primary missions that Fort Sill has besides basic training over in the 6,000 area? So, just as a reminder, the Trust Authority was put together to support those 2 initiatives or those 2 cross-functional teams. And Army's #1 priority is long-range precision fire, and that's Brigadier General John Rafferty, and he's promotable. So he actually stands a chance pretty soon to get his 2nd star. The Army's 5th priority is air and missile defense, and that's Major General Brian Gibson. And he's at the same rank as the commanding general at Fort Sill, 2-star general. So those 2 oversee the operation of those 2 cross-functional teams. Right now, both those cross-functional teams have about 50 employees each, and each are made up of both civilian and military, continuing to support those efforts. Each are seeking new advanced technologies to help provide a counter to our near-peer threats. And when you say near-peer threats, that's China and Russia. The other countries are not near-peer, but those are the 2 near-peer threats. Fire Centers of Excellence, or Fire Center of Excellence, FCOE, Joint Service Counter AUS Schoolhouse, right now is in Yuma, Arizona, and they're looking at moving that to Fort Sill. And one of those opportunities is for us to move it into the old Sears automotive space. So that's supposed to be operational in 2023. The Department of Defense and select military agencies will provide training, and this is for counter. This is to be able to shoot down drones or other things that are seen as potential enemies or threats to our forces. The other aspect is creating STEM education and opportunities for our young individuals in the Lawton-Fort Sill community. And it's not just, and the mayor and I have had this conversation, it's not just for the Lawton, it's not just for Lawton Public Schools, not just for Great Plains, but it's our surrounding communities as well, because our workforce comes from those areas, and we want to continue to try to develop young people. And I'm invested because I have 4 granddaughters who I hope stay here in the Lawton-Fort Sill community as they grow older, because I'm going to need somebody to take care of me at some point in time. But these are the highlights, and Richard talked about a few of these, and I just want to mention these again. On January 5th, 2021, we bought Central Mall. In 1 year, we paid back $1 million on the debt to the note that's owed to Bank of Oklahoma. Senator Jim Inhofe continues to work with us closely and is providing funding through the NDAA, as he's the vice chair, and on the NDAA, or National Defense Authorization Act, and continues to move and look to move those funds to FISTA. Congressman COL is working with us to find funding and secure funding through the transportation earmark, through a transportation earmark to support FISTA. Continuing resolution has stayed, at least slowed the process of being able to award the budget or to finalize that budget. But hopefully, I had lunch with Tom Cole a week ago, and he's looking at potentially April or May. So there's dollars there. We're just waiting for them to come in, and we can't secure this construction loan until we have those monies to be able to back that up. Presently, as Richard said, the BIC, that's the Business Information Center, the old IBC Bank in the mall, it's booked. We've got defense contractors that are there. Currently, there are 10 full-time staff there, and I put it in the document, and I've got Dynetics, and I'm going to name them. Dynetics, which is Nemian Solution and Oasis subcontractors that support Dynetics. Raytheon Technologies, Ultra, /Berry Aviation. Camgen has signed a lease to move into the FISTA. They're not in the BIC yet, but they've signed a lease to move into the place when we're talking about building it out. And then we're working with 3 other contracts or agreements to be able to move individuals in, and one of which is OU Radar Research. And OU Radar Research is important because the radar is the radar is the radar. It doesn't matter if they're checking weather or if they're checking inbound artillery pieces. That's what we want to be able to check. We have 2 letters of support. Those copies are there for you in your packet as well. And both Inhofe and COL continue to support our efforts to move forward and secure funding at the federal level. Memorandum of Understanding right now is being negotiated with Fort Sill so that FISTA and Fort Sill work hand in hand with providing direct support to those 2 cross-functional teams and any other future needs that the Army has. And so our board, the FISTA Trust Authority, has approved that already. We're waiting to get in front of Fort Sill officials so we can sign that agreement, that memorandum of understanding, so we can move forward. Initial construction renovation costs from Smith and Pickle, when we did our preliminary estimating, the cost came in at $7,800,000. $7,800,000. Had a total of 26 bid packets, and through value engineering, we've been able to make some adjustments. We have some bid packets that were not bid on, so we're putting those back out on bid. But there are 3 that we're going to stay or hold off on, and those 3 bid packets include the asphalt parking, digital signage, and then the movable walls that are in the conference center. We're going to hold on those for right now. Doesn't mean we're not going to do it, it's just we're going to put that off for a later date. Total savings on all 3 of those packages was $921,000. Matt Thomas, the president of Smith & Pickle, which is our construction management firm, when looking at the costs of the project and why we were so much higher than what our preliminary estimates were, he's done a little research, and material costs for studs are up 50%. Ceiling grids and tiles are up 75%. HVAC equipment, 25 to 30%, if you can get them. And that's, he said, you're going to have a hard time getting those. Electrical, 20 to 25%. PVC, which is the plastic piping, up about 150%, wiring 50 to 60%, and then commercial labor, commercial production labor is up about 3.5%. I've referenced in the document that you had, and it's actually consumer price indexing and produced price indexing, and those are the quartiles that he's used to kind of come up with. I'm not going to go through that, but that's the reference points for coming up with some of those increases in funding costs. When comparing material increases to those indexes, there is the hypothesis, or at least the estimate we've come up with, is 25 to 35% increase in the cost of this project. So if you take the number, that puts us pretty close to where we would have been if when we originally started the project. 5.3 million is what we had estimated really to start. To date, and I'll just share with you, and it's that last little line there, or a couple lines, Sears and Dillard's abatement, that means everything's been removed from inside the structures. Sears, the air conditioning and ventilation's been removed. We've had to go in and do some abatement for some asbestos and some glue that was on the floor, as well as some glue that was on the floor in the Dillard's, and all of that being removed. Total cost for removing the Sears and the Dillard's was $868,000. That bill has been paid. And then the FSB architectural firm is $240,000. So to date, we've paid $1,108,000 for this project. So that is a quick overview. The $2 million will put us back into, I do want to mention there is on the contingency fund about $360,000. Somebody asked a question of me the other day, said, well, what happens if those bid packages that you're going to put back out come in a little bit higher? I think our construction management firm has been real close on estimating those costs for the individual bids. But if there's a little overage, we've got just a little cushion there. We can cover those costs with those estimates if the bids come in higher. We've got a 45-day window from when we did bid opening until we've got these original bids that are still good, and the other bid packages are going out as we speak. And so we'll continue to look at those and have a bid opening, and then our Trust Authority Board will approve those if we can receive the additional funding. So I'll stop talking and answer any questions that you might have right now, or Richard can help, and or Mark Brace. So I think the three
Council,
of us
do you have questions?
I'm not sure I have
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Ms. Chapman.
a question, but a comment. In addition to the inflationary prices
Sure.
that everyone is seeing, I am assuming that these defense contractors and the different companies coming in have different types of requirements and specifications than building an ordinary commercial building or a
Yes.
home.
Yeah.
So we're talking about something that's
Well, and
big.
I'm glad you asked that question. This is a high secure facility, so to be able to make that and meet those requirements, at least through DOD, there is a little more stringent or a little different construction piece. The part that we're building out are primarily the office spaces, which do need to be secured. They'd have soundproof walls, and then also be able to prevent any cross communication between any parties that are housed in those office spaces. The remainder of the building that'll be built out, as a term is new to me, tenant in tow, is that the tenant and when we sign the lease agreement, be white space, and they'll help build that space out. Other questions?
Thank you, Clarence, for being here today. And as all of you know, I'm a huge proponent of this project. But this request distresses me, and it raised a lot of questions.
Okay.
So, and I understand that, 2 years ago, a 2x4 was $2, and now it's $10. So I get that. So the overall cost, the almost $8 million, how much of the total space that we have will that transform?
It's about a third of the space on the front side of the north side of the Dillard space.
Of all the space that we have, how much is that? What percentage is that?
It's 33%.
Is that just the Sears store, or is that also including the Dillards?
No, it's not the Dillards.
Okay, so projecting forward, what expenses can we expect for the other 66% of this plus Dillards and whatever else we might want to do?
I don't have an exact figure, but it won't be the cost won't be as much because this is a finished out space. The space that we're talking about in the remainder of the 66% is really a white box. It's just operating concrete floors, lights, ventilation system in there. The rest of it is finished out like this, carpeted, finished millwork, cabinets, storage cabinets, those types of things.
So if I wave my Harry Potter wand and I've got contractors that want everything that we have available, including the Dillard space, what's the overall cost of this? Would you expect that to be?
I don't have that answer.
Okay. If we defer this for just, and again, being the new guy on the block, I haven't had a chance to study your numbers. If we defer this for 2 weeks, is that going to kill anything?
We've got to have their bid opening will have to be before February the 11th because the current bids that we have, if we don't have secure funding by then, those original bids will be null and void. We would have to start the process all over.
So the secure funding is the key word in this.
Yes.
Okay. Do we anticipate that for each additional phase going forward, we're going to have these additional costs?
I didn't understand the first. I'm sorry.
Do you anticipate that for each phase after this that we're going to have another? We need another. In other words, are you going to keep coming back to us and go, we need another 2 million, another 2 million, another 2 million?
No, we're hoping, through COL and Inhofe that those monies that we can secure through them, or negotiate something where the contractor, the DOD contractor, would help finish or pay for the cost of those to build out.
Okay, so we're hoping for that. What's the worst case scenario?
I'm not sure I'm tracking.
What if we don't get that money? If we don't get any other?
Well, this would let us get this phase of that operation built out.
And then where does that lead us to?
Well, the next part is going to be building out the remainder of through funds through COL and all through Inhofe, but also through Tucker Link and his group that we're trying to secure funds through them as well.
So the rent that will be generated from the people that are moving into the space we're finishing out will go where?
Well, that'll offset some of the expense, but that'll be captured to recoup costs for the operation of not only FISTA, but also the build out of the
because we do have a note to pay, right?
Sure.
Okay. So how much is the estimated cost of the deferred projects?
The deferred?
How long are you thinking about deferring them and with stuff going through the roof?
Well, it's $970,000, and we could defer those for, a year plus. But if we want to start building out the conference center, which then put walls in, we'd want to put those in. There's signage on the front side of the building, and then parking lot, the asphalt parking lot, and refinish those. The bid packages included the fence for the secured area, so everything is included in those bid packages. So.
Okay, so we could have an estimated $1 million more needed for those deferred projects.
But again, those are the monies we're hoping through Tom Cole, through those dollars, and through Senator Inhofe. We can use those monies to offset those costs. That's why we're deferring those. We can put those off.
I want to be very clear. I'm not being antagonistic. I'm trying to catch up, and it's like drinking from a fire hose. So, how many jobs are on the ground now?
Right now?
Yeah.
10.
Okay.
And they are paid. I think all of them are engineers. They're $90,000 to $100,000 jobs.
Okay. And I think that's excellent, and I'm very excited, and I have been, and thank you, Mr. Taylor, too. I left your name out of this. It seems to me that I'm getting a lot of misinformation. The citizens have gotten a lot of misinformation about this, and I'd like to see us celebrate and publicize our victories and where we are so far, so that misinformation can cease, because I think a lot of the static that I'm getting is that people they say, well, we haven't seen any jobs yet. We haven't seen any dirt turned. Now all the work's been done internally, and you and I know that, and it had to be done before we could move forward. But I would really like to see us find a way to publicize this project more, and so that people actually see results.
Well, Councilman, if you we've been a little reluctant to address some of the companies, but
I understand
today,
that.
We told them, hey, we need to make some effort to make sure that people know, and so
I understand that, and I appreciate that. I really do. I just, you and I have been a part of a lot of projects over the years, and I understand that when dirt starts getting turned, people get more excited. So I'd like to see us celebrate that.
And Councilman, I can probably address a little bit of, you talked about the future and how the future would get built out. So one of the things that Clarence mentioned is that term tenants in tow. What that simply means is that remainder of that space, we will have a signed lease agreement, and that signed lease agreement has value. I mean, it's a signed lease agreement with a defense contractor that has a major defense, contract, and so that has value. And so it may be that we can find that the FISTA can get that funding from a different source at that point. It may not be the city of Lawton that has to fund it. I mean, maybe we'll just get basically a bank loan to fund that and pay the bank loan back with the stuff. So we really you haven't seen how that goes, and sometimes they'll actually be making tenant improvements. So the tenant itself will say, well, here's money to build out that space. That's why we're a little bit nebulous on how that build out will go. But certainly every dollar of funding that comes from the city will be approved by the city council. And I just also want to mention that the FISTA Development Trust Authority is the official trust of the city of Lawton. So any money that they have, any assets they have, at any time can come back to the city of Lawton per the city council. The city is the sole beneficiary of that trust.
And thank you, Rich. I understand that, and the point that's been made to me is, when the citizens voted for the CIP a couple years ago, it's not an unlimited bank account. It's not a big pile of cash we can all go dive into. And if we keep going back to the well, back to the well, back to the well, we're going to lose the support of the citizens. And I don't want to see that, because that's going to jeopardize our plans in the future for further CIPs. And I love this project. I'll put my money into it, but I just see some concerns from some very respected people, and I just wanted to get clear in my own mind what those were. So thank you very much. You've answered my questions well.
Councilman, can I just make sure there's one point that's clear? $6,899,000 is the total amount of what's being bid right now. You said something about 790. That was what we were at originally, and that does include those 3 phases that we're holding off. But what we'll do is hold those three bid packages or pages out.
So the 6 million number is the 7,821,000 minus the 3 packages out.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I just want to make sure that
so
was clear.
Just by my numbers, if we extrapolate the cost of this package over all of our space, that's $156 million over the life of this project.
There's not.
That's a big bite.
Yeah, it's not that. It's not going to be that. This is the most expensive portion of this whole project.
So we're not going to spend $260 a square foot on everything?
No.
Okay, good. Thank you very much.
Council, you have other questions?
Mayor?
Yes.
I actually have questions for Richard, if he's around. Okay. Richard, where's the $2 million coming from that we're going to back this with?
The $2 million they're requesting, it comes out of the Industrial Development CIP fund from the 2019 CIP, the Industrial Development portion of the 2019 CIP.
So we have $2 million that has not been obligated to anything?
There was a portion of the industrial development. So the short answer is yes, it's unobligated at this point. because it's simply part of that large portion. I think it was $29 million that was
It's
set
actually
aside.
29 million new dollars in the extension, and there was 9 million in the, from a previous CIP vote the year before, so there's a total of 38 million in that.
And after this, how much will be left in that industrial development CIP?
Well, we actually haven't spent very much of it at all. We've sort of semi-obligated some of it. We believe there are some industrial projects that are out there that, I mean, we don't have signed agreements, but we think that they're going to fall into place. I don't know if I think some of that 29 million is gone to operate the LEDC. Their annual agreement is funded out of that, and this 2.67 million that's currently in this agreement comes out of that. But I don't know if there's anything else that's been obligated from that money.
Yeah, I don't remember anything.
About $600,000 for the LEDC and this 2.6 million, which actually hasn't been spent yet, but it's been obligated.
I'm going to echo what Councilman Harris said. I really love this project, and I know it's going to succeed, but I'm uneasy about where we're getting the money for this and how we're going to pay for it, because we keep dipping into our funds. And not directed at you, just as a general comment, so many times, at times I've been here, not you, but people bring us stuff and they say, oh my gosh, you got to pass this, or in 2 weeks it's going to burn down. And I'll just say overall, I don't know if anybody else wants to speak, I'm sure you still can. I think the best thing I could offer would be a motion to table this for 2 weeks. So hopefully I can confer with Clarence or somebody and you and understand this better, because I want to make sure we're doing right for the citizens and we're not hurting ourselves with these CIP funds right now. That's my motion.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor to table for 2 weeks. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
There's a motion to table and a second. Discussion or debate? Please vote. Need one more vote. And the motion to table for 2 weeks carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. And that takes us back to item number 14. Hold a public hearing to consider a change of zoning from the C3 Planned Community Shopping Center District to the C5 General Commercial District zoning classification. The property is located at 1050 Northwest 38th Street, Lawton, Oklahoma 73505. I need to declare a conflict of interest. A business associate is the broker in this. I'll conduct the meeting, but I will not participate in discussion. Cameron.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Council. Make sure that this is turned on. Alrighty. This is the area location map that you see behind you on the screen is for the old Kmart, the abandoned Kmart that is sitting there. They are proposing, U-Haul is proposing to come in and remodel that building and turn it into self-storage and the retail front on the north end, and then future plans to potentially add more self-storage units out front. The current zoning is C3. The proposed zoning is C5, and the current land use is already commercial. This is the site plan for the area. As you can see, the retail on the north side, and then the remodel of the interior space for the indoor storage units. The CPC's recommendation was to approve this. The public was noticed, everyone within 300 feet was sent notice of this, and it was posted in the paper on the December 24th. Any questions?
Want to make sure everybody has the opportunity to ask questions.
There's also representation from the U-Haul people here if you have questions for them.
Okay. I don't see any questions. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Just want to make sure, is this going to be a nice-looking building on
Yes,
that corner?
Absolutely. The intentions is to remodel the exterior as well. They've done this across the nation to over 100+ Kmarts. And it is a proposed look is very nice. And this is the gentleman, if you. This is a pamphlet if you'd like to see it of what they've done in the past.
Do we have a design for this location yet? The exterior design?
I'm Brett with U-Haul, and we've been able to move through this process quickly with the Planning Commission. I have some conceptual drawings that I've used on other Kmarts, but we're still in the process of getting this conceptual drawing completed. Yes.
Will it be something similar to the ones I have seen in the past from your website?
Yeah, Shawnee, Oklahoma. This is about my 7th Kmart. I've done Walmarts. I think in the U-Haul system we've done about 100 of them. Be more than glad to pass this by if everybody'd like to see it as a conceptual.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions from council? Seeing none, I will open the public hearing. Anybody wishing to speak on this item, please come forward at this time. Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. Council, do you have any more questions or motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the change.
Push your button there.
I'll make a motion that we approve the change in zoning.
We have a motion to approve the change in zoning. Is there a second?
Second.
And we have a second. Is there discussion or debate?
My only comment would be to staff. I mean, and just so that the citizens know, this will go through the same process and does go through the same process as if they were building a new structure there. It's going to have to meet all the code requirements and all those things.
Any further discussion or debate? Please vote. Oh, we got to read the ordinance.
An ordinance changing the zoning classification from the existing classification of C3, Planned Shopping Community Center District, to C5, General Commercial District zoning classification on the tract of land which is hereinafter more particularly described in Section 1 hereof, authorizing changes to be made upon the official zoning map in accordance with this ordinance.
Please vote. And the item carries 5-0. Item number 15, hold a public hearing to consider an amendment to the 2030 land use plan for parks open space to commercial and a change of zoning from the PF Public Facilities District to the C5 General Commercial District zoning classification. The property is located behind 215 Southeast Interstate Drive, Lawton, Oklahoma 73501. Cameron.
Maybe this still working. Tracy, is this? I can move forward without it if you like. I can move forward without the visual aids if you like. Okay. Yes, sir. This property is located behind the Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram service road store location just south of Gore, right next to the highway. The proposed, there we go. There we go. We got it working. Here's the area described. Like I said, it's used to be Council Heights Park. This was sold to the property owner of the Jeep Dodge Chrysler Ram. Like I said, it was the Council Heights Park. They've been using it, as you can see in the aerials, for some storage of vehicles. The current zoning is PF. They are proposing to change it to C5, and they want to change the current land use plan from parks and open space to commercial. This is the proposed site plan. It's a little blurry, but as you can see, it's oriented to the north, would be to your right. It is a proposed parking lot that will be accessed from their property over here on the little entrance, and then all the way this little entrance from their property, and then it'll also be connected to the service road to the north of that little section. The CPC's recommendation was to approve this with the condition of adding a OPEG screening between the residential properties, which would be required by code. This was also sent out to everyone within 300 feet and was posted in the paper on December 24th.
Questions from council?
I had just one question, probably, I don't know who gets to answer this, but there will be a buffer of some kind between that property and the residential area there, trees or whatever?
Yes, sir. That would be the condition that the CPC put there.
Okay.
The OPEG screening, it's a 6 to 8 foot OPEG screening with additional tree buffer.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions I can answer for you?
Other questions, council? At this time, I will open the public hearing. Anybody wishing to speak on this item, please come forward at this time. Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. Do we have any questions from council or a motion?
I move to approve the ordinance, waive the reading of the ordinance, and read the title only.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the ordinance and waive the reading of the ordinance and read the title only. John, please read the title.
An ordinance changing the zoning classification from the existing classification of PF, Public Facilities Density, to C5, General Commercial District Zoning classification on the tract of land which is hereinafter more particularly described in Section 1 hereof, authorizing changes to be made upon the official zoning map in accordance with this ordinance.
Please vote.
We'll also need to do the resolution for the change or the amendment to the land use plan.
Okay. The motion to pass the ordinance passes 5-0. Now we need a motion to pass the resolution.
Move to approve the resolution.
Second.
Motion to approve and a second. Discussion or debate. Please vote. Motion carries 5-0. Item number 16, hold a public hearing to consider an amendment to the 2030 land use plan from residential low density to professional office transition and a change of zoning from R2 two-family dwelling to the PO professional office district zoning classification. The property is located at 1 Northwest Fort Sill Boulevard, Lawton, Oklahoma 73507. Cameron.
As you can see on the area described, it is a northeast corner of Gore Boulevard and Fort Sill Boulevard. This is lots 6, 7, and 8. It's the brown house right there on the corner. The current zoning for that property is R2. The proposed zoning would be a PO, Public Office District. The current land use is residential low district with the proposed with professional office transition. This was, I want to remind you, the professional office was put in as a buffer zone in between commercial properties and residential properties. That's the intention behind the PO district. The proposed site plan, as you can see, has a few changes on it from when it went to CPC. CPC's recommendation was to approve this with the conditions of changing the OPEG screening from a concrete wall to communicate with the property owners to the north and figure out whether they'd like a cedar fence and they're willing to communicate and do that. They also wanted, the CPC's recommendation was to connect the two parking lots, the one to the east of the property and then the one to the north. They also wanted to make this entrance onto Northwest Fort Sill Boulevard a right turn only to enter and to exit, with maybe an additional pork chopped concrete shaped curb to enforce that. As you can see, this is the proposed site plan that they wanted to do. They closed in the entrance for the alleyway, and they changed the OPEG screening. They did not put the concrete pork chop in, but they are willing to work with them and also say that maybe put in a sign saying right turn only. But the conditions that the CPC approved were not fully met with this site plan. But there is representation here to talk to you if you have questions about this proposed site plan, as well as our traffic engineer to talk about the impacts on Fort Sill Boulevard. There is no, according to them, there is no impact if there is a turn left there. It is far enough away from the intersection. But you can ask the questions for them if you'd like.
Who's going to speak on that? Richard?
Larry.
Larry? I just think if the CPC recommended it and you say there's no impact, we just need to understand that.
Right, and I addressed the CPC for this request as well. For an office complex this small, you're going to have a pretty small traffic volume. And just for comparison, you can look at the neighborhood Walmart facility, westbound traffic leaving their parking lot just north of Lee Boulevard on 38th Street. You have a left turn movement at that location. It's approximately the same distance we're talking about. We're about 360 feet north of Gore Boulevard and about 200 feet north of the little right turn jog, the single lane that Gore has at that location. But, traffic volumes comparing the Walmart facility to this facility are much smaller, so I would anticipate no significant impact for left turns from this location.
So do you have any questions before we open the public hearing? You do?
Yes.
Ask a question, Mr. Harris.
Would you please explain professional office and what that can include and what it excludes? Just trying to protect that neighborhood from late night, whatever.
Yes. Professional office zoning does limit the use to your typical professional offices, such as architectural firms, maybe a dentist office, your typical 8 to 5 jobs. So they're not usually going to impact anything past your normal business hours. Also with the professional office, you have to maintain the residential look, and that's they're proposing on doing is keeping that residential look. They actually want to remodel the house to what it used to look like off of historic photos, and they were going to maintain that residential look. Also, I want to state that this item did go to the Board of Adjustments for a variance request for this 8 feet 7 inches on their property setback for their parking lot. That requirement is 15 foot, but the Board of Adjustments did vary this and allow them to do that few feet closer. That rule was put into place to maintain a front yard look for parking lots in residential areas. They have such a huge right-of-way off of that street that their front yard is very big anyways, and that's why the Board of Adjustments went ahead and approved that variance to allow them to have that 8 foot 7 inches.
Any other questions, Council?
Mayor, I think using the PO designation zoning is a really good idea because of the residences there. I was kind of thinking about the pork chop, and the issue is Fort Sill Boulevard along that stretch is 4 lanes with no turn lanes at all. So it's very narrow, and the speed limit's gone down and all that. But if anybody wants to if they're southbound on Fort Sill Boulevard and they want to make a left turn on a street or even into there, that's something that they deal with already. So to me, it doesn't seem fair to make them put a pork chop in. Is there going to be sidewalks at all on Fort Sill Boulevard?
There is on the west side of the street already.
Okay.
There is not on this side.
Okay,
As you
good
can
enough.
see, there is an existing one on the south side of the property for
Okay.
Gore.
Yep, thanks.
Other questions before we open the public hearings?
Strangely enough, while I agree with a lot of what my fellow councilman said about the pork chop, I lean more towards it because of the fact that directly after that, you have to negotiate back into that lane to make that left turn into the light. And I just like the idea of not backing that, because I know on the other end of Fort Sill Boulevard, when you're going towards the high school, I don't know if that no left turn lane is, I mean, there used to be a no left turn sign there on, I want to say Euclid. And I mean, that was for that very reason, that you ended up getting that congestion with that backing up and then people trying to get around to make the left turn onto Ferris. So this is the same thing, only reversed. So I'm kind of leaning towards liking the idea of a pork chop, but that's just me. It's not my ward.
Any other questions for staff before we open the public hearing? Seeing none, I'll open the public hearing. Anybody wishing to come forward to speak on this item, please do so at this time. Hello. Please state your name and address for us.
I'm Yvonne Johnson, and I live just north of the property in question at 7 Fort Sill Boulevard. And first of all, I would like to generally express our concern with a change of zoning in the Old Town North neighborhood. We're very proud of this neighborhood. And as I've mentioned on other occasions, the State Historic Preservation Office says it's one of the last intact bungalow-type housing neighborhoods dating from pre-World War II in the state of Oklahoma. However, we realize, and I think our neighbors do too, that preservation is not just about maintaining a residence as a residential residence. So in thinking about this, we have talked to the developer and we talked to the Planning Commission many times, and as was stated previously, the developer has promised that he will keep the facade as it would appear 30 or 40 years ago and still be appear like a residential home. So we're very pleased with that. But our second concern, and I speak for our neighbors too, our second concern is for the traffic. We weren't terribly happy when Fort Sill Boulevard was widened. That certainly has made more traffic, and the traffic goes more quickly, is faster. And we hear this traffic every day, and we hear the screeching brakes and the problems that we have. So we were very pleased with the suggestions that were made at the Planning Commission about doing something to alleviate this traffic. So our neighbors would not be happy if that were changed. So I would like to really ask you to maintain the changes that were done on the site plan. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for coming. Is there anybody else that would like to come forward and speak on this item? Come on to the front if you'd like to. Please state your name and address for us.
Afternoon, Mark Cox, 4514 Northeast Bly. I am the developer of this project, so I'm very excited about it, and I know all the concerns of this project. So I just wanted to speak a little about it. I know it had some concerns, and if you know me, I've done many developments in Lawton, and I want to keep this exactly, we've all driven by this.
Excuse me just a second. Sir, you can come and sit on the front row. Okay, thank you, Mark.
So anyway, we're all aware of this house, how iconic it is. I think it's iconic. So my goal is to bring it back to life, and as was 50 years ago, keep it the aesthetics of the building, trying to keep the footprint light as possible. I wasn't able to make planning commission. They talked about having parking lots. We have one for employees, one for the public, tying those together. I didn't want to do that because I want to keep the footprint light for that building. A lot of landscaping going on that corner, so I want to keep it that way. If Larry says that exit, it doesn't matter to me, but I would take the word of a professional. I've been there, been working there. I know the issues there. I hadn't seen any issues that far down. So if Larry says that's not an issue on coming out, turning left, I agree with him. I'm in there all the time. But if you decide different, that's not an issue. It's just going to cost me more to do it. But I agree with Larry being there. But I can assure you, we want to keep the footprint light. We want to bring it back, and it is an iconic corner. So I just appreciate your support on it. Any questions?
We need to ask you questions when the public hearing's over. Sir, come on up. Yes, sir. Please state your name and address for us.
Yes, Mayor Booker and members of the City Council. My name is Stephen Johnson, and I live at number 7 Northwest Fort Sill Boulevard. My wife just spoke to you.
Okay.
When this project has undergone a number of changes, I think when the first notice came out for the City Council to meet on this, to approve this, I think Lot 6 was not even included on the site plan. So that's the one that has this proposed parking lot in it. And my property, my house is in Block 5, or Lot 5, which joins this project. First of all, I want to say we're in full agreement with this plan, and Mr. Cox has been very cooperative, because one of the iterations of the site plan included a concrete wall 8 feet high and 140 feet long that would straddle the property line. But we have a number of trees. If you look at that double line on the extreme left, that represents the property line. There are a number of trees that go the whole length of that proposal. When I spoke to Mr. Cox about this, I said, I'm afraid that if you put a wall there, the footing for it would be probably 24 inches underground. It's a tremendous weight. And that will kill the trees along that property line. Some of them, I must say, are part of Lot 6, and some are part of Lot 5. So, I speak from experience. Originally, there was a major water line that ran down Fort Sill Boulevard. And that was a problem for the city, because every time there was a failure there, they had to close the road or traffic. It was difficult to maintain. So they wanted to move the water line. And they did. They moved it to the east. And when they did that, they had an excavator to put in the pipeline. And I had 2 trees in my front yard. Really, it's city easement, but I had 2 trees there. The first one died the first year. The second one died the second year. So the result is I have no trees in front because they cut the roots. Now, these were not very old trees, but the ones that remain on the south side of our house, following that double line there, are mature trees. They're probably 40 to 50 years old. My house is vintage 1941, and so now we have this problem with the parking lot. I haven't had a chance to talk to Mr. Cox about this, but if it's a concrete parking lot or a macadam parking lot, it is certainly going to cover a number of roots for those trees, and I fear they will die. But it might be possible to put in pavers in part of that, where it would let the water run through in a rainstorm and would not kill the trees. So I still have that concern, and I know from experience that I lost trees already, and I'm beginning to think I'm going to become a desert here before long. I've lost all the trees on the west and maybe lose them on the east as well.
Okay, we're running out of time. Would you finish this up for us, please?
Okay. So I just wanted the council to understand my representative is not here today. Mr. Hampton's not here today, but
okay.
And I thought he would want to probably.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much for coming. Is there anybody else who would like to come forward and speak on this item? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. Council, do you have any more questions for staff or for Mr. Cox? Or want to make any comments? And remember, when you make a motion, this has a resolution and an ordinance.
First thing I'd like to say is it already looks better. It looks nice. I mean, it's starting to look really nice there. I'd make a motion that we approve the CPC's approval, the way that they approved it.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor to approve the CPC's recommendation for both the resolution and the ordinance to waive the reading of the ordinance and read the title only. Is that correct, Mr. Warren? Do we have a second?
That is correct.
I'll second that, and I'd just like to add, the CPC's approval was contingent on the pork chop being installed. Right turn only coming out and no left turn.
And the parking lots being connected on property.
Yes.
Okay, so we have a motion and we have a second. Does everybody understand the motion? Discussion or debate?
Yes. So Mr. Cox said that he did not want to connect the 2 parking lots. So is that in the plan or out of the plan?
The CPC's recommendation was to put the pork chop in and to connect the parking lot, and for the OPEG screening to go from concrete to a cedar fence. He has done the cedar fence on the new proposed site plan. He has not connected the parking lots or put the pork chop in. He would like to move forward without doing those.
Okay, but the motion and the second is for the CPC's recommendation.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any further discussion or debate? Please vote. Oh, we got to read the title.
An ordinance changing the zoning classification from the existing classification of R2, 2-family dwelling district, to PO professional office district, zoning classification on the tract of land which is hereinafter more particularly described in section 1 hereof, authorizing changes to be made upon the official zoning map in accordance with this ordinance.
Please vote. And the motion carries 5-0. Move on to item 17. Consider approving Council Policy 4-5, Solicitation and Award of Public Construction Contracts, which provides for a local bid preference in certain qualifying instances for public construction contracts and will give direction to staff in how to proceed with such contracts. City Attorney.
Mayor, Council, as discussed in previous council meetings, the Public Competitive Bidding Act of 1974 was amended this summer. One of the changes in the law was to raise the threshold for competitive bidding for public construction contracts from $75,000 to $100,000. The law also changed to allow us to award a local vendor preference so long as that bid was the second bid in the order, and so long as it was within 5% of the lowest bid price. And the law also requires that in order to have a local vendor preference, that the governing body must have a policy that implements that preference. So that's what this agenda item is for. Council Policy 4-5 augments our existing administrative policy that discusses bidding preferences for non-construction contracts. So that's what this is about.
You have questions or a motion?
I move to approve the policy.
A motion for approval. Do we have a second?
Second.
And a second. Discussion or debate? Please vote. And motion carries 5-0. Companion item number 18. Consider approving an ordinance, including any floor amendments related thereto, pertaining to finance and purchasing requirements, amending Section 10.1.116, Article 10.1, Chapter 10, Lawton City Code 2015, to allow in certain circumstances and with limitations a local vendor preference when awarding public construction contracts, providing for severability and establishing an effective date. John.
Mayor, members of the council, the prior agenda item updated the policy. This agenda item updates the code. So same subject material, same changes, just we're codifying those changes in our city code with respect to this agenda item.
We have a motion.
Move to approve.
We have a motion for approval of the ordinance to waive the reading of the ordinance and read the title only. Is there a second?
I'll second.
And a second. Discussion or, read the title.
An ordinance pertaining to finance and purchasing requirements, amending sections 10.1.116, Article 10.1, Chapter 10, Lawton City Code 2015, to allow in certain circumstances and with limitations a local vendor preference when awarding public construction contracts, providing for severability and establishing an effective date.
Please vote. Motion carries 5-0. Number 19, consider an ordinance updating the city's cable franchise regulations and reflecting the non-exclusive nature of cable franchises granted by the city. Rich, who's speaking?
That would be Larry, Mayor.
Or Greg Gibson's prepared to speak. Come on down, Greg.
It's a Larry and a Greg thing.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council.
Good afternoon.
So this ordinance is a little bit corrective. In 2014, there was Lawton passed a cable franchise ordinance, and that was to facilitate the entrance of Fidelity. That ordinance was non-exclusive as it had to be by law, but unfortunately, it was written very Fidelity heavy. Fidelity is the only company that's mentioned in that ordinance. And when we began to look at other entrants into the market, it became clear that trying to correct that ordinance was going to be very difficult because that previous ordinance operated as Fidelity's actual franchise agreement. So we didn't want to mess that up in any way. Also, this ordinance will update and modernize some of Lawton's regulations regarding entrance of a cable company into our market. It is truly non-exclusive, and it would be followed up. It would govern cable franchise grants in the future, and it would also allow for separate individual franchise agreements to be made under that ordinance. So it takes away that problem of having an ordinance that is focused on one company.
Okay, thank you, Greg. Do we have questions? Do we have a motion?
I make a motion that we go ahead and update the ordinance as outlined.
Okay, so we've got a motion for approval of the ordinance to waive the reading of the ordinance and read the title only. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
And we have a second. Please read the title.
An ordinance creating sections 1021-2101 through 1021-2154, Article 1021, Chapter 10, Lawton Cable Franchise Ordinance 2022, Lawton City Code 2015, by creating the article, creating regulations for granting new cable franchises, creating regulations for cable franchise grantees' operations and maintenance, providing for severability, and establishing an effective date.
Please vote. And the motion carries 5-0. Move to item 20, consider an ordinance pertaining to Chapter 15, Lawton City Code 2015 that amends Section 154401, 154402, 154403, and 154404, clarifying language which relates to smoking or vaping in certain public places, adding definitions, and adding language concerning discrimination against medical marijuana patients, providing for severability. Janet.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, Mayor and council members. I'd like to just present a few bullet points as we're going through the proposed changes and updates to Article 15. And just add with what Greg was saying, that what we're hoping to do here today is just to upgrade our municipal codes. And so we've added definitions to assist with proper application of the laws, such as smoke-free locations, designated smoking rooms, incidental public access, medical marijuana patients, consumption lounge, cigar bar, smoking salon, and hookah bars. We've amended sections to include state statutes regarding the use of medical marijuana and nicotine in public places, indoor smoking places, standalone buildings, private offices, requiring 25 feet minimum distances from doorways and air intakes for exhaust and ventilation of smoking areas, posting of signs for tobacco-free and vape-free as directed by the city manager for public buildings, anti-discrimination protection set into place for medical marijuana patients regarding schools, employers, medical treatment, child custody, visitation, concealed carry license, and zoning of dispensaries, use of smoking, vaping, and tobacco products by city employees on city property and the penalties for such use. And what we've done is we have proposed consistently using 25 feet distance rather than 15 feet from all doorways and ventilation to assist with the interpretation of the ordinance and also enforcement issues. We've also proposed definitions for standalone buildings and requirements for ventilation of indoor smoking rooms. And we've proposed definitions for consumption lounges to include hookah bars, cigar bars, and other permitted use. And I would just like to add finally that according to the United Health Foundation's website, 19.1% of adults in Oklahoma were smokers in 2020. And the criteria for that was that the percentage of adults who reported smoking at least 100 cigarettes in their lifetime and currently smoke daily or some days, and also that we have raised the legal tobacco purchase age to decrease the number of teens who become smokers. And in 2019, the act was changed to raise the legal tobacco age from 18 to 21. And so that's what this proposal is today before you.
Council, do you have questions? If there are no questions.
I'm sorry, Mayor.
Yes, sir.
This is a great policy. There's one part I was concerned about, and hopefully I can articulate this well, on page 6, subsection B2, it talks about when an employer may take action against a medical marijuana licensed person. And it says in the middle there, employers may not take action, ... based solely on the results of a drug test showing positive for marijuana or its components. My concern there is I have drivers I employ. There's CDL drivers for the city. And I don't know about the city's policy on this, but when a driver gets in an accident and that's their job, I think we drug and alcohol test them. So we don't want any drivers to be intoxicated at any time while they're working, and if they are, we should be able to take action against them if they come back positive for marijuana or anything. Is there a conflict there? I guess is what I would ask the legal department.
No, I don't think so, Councilman Fortenbaugh. And correct me if I'm wrong, Michael, but I think that our drivers actually sign a policy that says if they can be regularly tested, and if they do test positive for marijuana or marijuana metabolites during the testing period, then that can result in termination or anything leading up to termination.
That's correct. Safety-sensitive positions are exempt from that criteria.
Okay, I have a similar paper they signed. Thank you.
Boy, things have gotten more complicated than when we just had a no smoking sign. I get a lot of complaints about this, and it does happen to be mostly with marijuana now, drifting from one business to another in an enclosed shopping mall or whatever. So I think this is a good thing. I didn't realize when we originally first started talking about it how involved it was going to have to be, but it really is. It's interesting that things have changed as much as they have. With that said, I'd make a motion to approve the ordinance pertaining to Chapter 15, Lawton City Code 2015, that amends Sections 15-4-401, 15-4-402, 15-4-403, and 15-4-404, clarifying language which relates to smoking or vaping in certain public places, adding definitions, adding language to prevent discrimination against medical marijuana patients, and providing for severability.
Okay, so we have that motion that includes to waive the reading of the ordinance and read the title only, correct? And the second, correct? Discussion or debate? Please read the title.
An ordinance pertaining to nuisances and health, amending sections 15-4-401, 15-4-402, 15-4-403, and 15-4-404, Chapter 15, Lawton City Code 2015, by adding definitions designating certain property as smoke-free, clarifying language related to smoking in certain public areas, adding language concerning discrimination against licensed medical marijuana patients, use prohibited in municipal vehicles, penalties for municipal employees, and providing for severability.
Please vote. Motion carries 5-0. And with that, we move to quick staff reports.
I don't know, Mayor. I got, a lot of stuff to talk about, so it may not be quick. I wanted to point out, and I think we missed it, which is on item 10, the recommendation to go out for that RFP was a recommendation in the Novak report, so we've implemented one of those references. And also, I would like to point out that, Mayor, you and I have discussed, and at some point in the very near future, I'll probably provide some sort of documentation and or videos outlining implementation of the Novak recommendations. Since it's 52 slides long right now, I figured you guys didn't want to see that, so we'll send it to you maybe in an abridged version, and you guys can read it at your leisure. But I also wanted to take this opportunity to introduce Joe Don Dunham. Joe Don Dunham comes from us from Guyman. Joe, if you wouldn't mind standing up. Joe's our new finance director. Thank the Lord that he's here, and we appreciate him being here. We expect great things out of John, and with Janet joining us and other things that are changing, culture's changing here in Lawton, Mayor, and I agree with you. The future's looking bright for Lawton. Thank you.
All right, and I don't see an I Love Lawton Fort Sill pin on him. Not yet. But I'm sure that will be taken care of. And I also want to clarify that the Novak report for the public and for Mr. Harris is an efficiency study. So I'm real excited about getting that update, and I know the public will be too, Michael. I'm excited about that progress. And with that, I'm looking for a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
Motion and a second. Do I have a second?
Second.
A second. Please call the roll.
Harris.
Yes.
Chapman.
Yes.
Fortenbaugh.
Yes.
Warren. Hankins.
Yes. I almost feel bad about going into executive session. Oh, Lord. Since we've been shut.
I was just seeing if it still worked. Yeah.
Okay, we're back from executive session. Please call the roll.
Chapman. Fortenbaugh. Warren. Hankins. Harris.
And item number 22, John?
Was there any action on this one? Pursuant to Section 307C11, Title 25 Oklahoma statutes, council convened an executive session for the purpose of conferring on matters pertaining to economic development, including the transfer of property, financing, or the creation of a proposal to entice a business to remain or to locate within the city of Lawton, as public disclosure of the matter discussed would interfere with the development of products and services and violate the confidentiality of the business. I understand that there is no action on this agenda item.
Okay, item number 23, John?
Pursuant to Section 307B4, Title 25 Oklahoma statutes, council convened an executive session to discuss the pending action in United States District Court titled City of Lawton versus NG Services, formerly known as Optera Energy Services, and I understand that there is a motion on this agenda item.
I move to approve a professional services agreement between the City of Lawton and John Fagan for the purpose of assisting the city's legal counsel in evaluating the facts related to the case, particularly the areas involving the data network and the VoIP phone system, and, if requested, prepare a report and testify concerning the same.
We have a motion on the floor. Is there a second? I have a motion and a second. Please call the roll, or please vote. Motion carries 5-0. Item number 24, John.
Pursuant to Section 307B1, Title 25 Oklahoma statutes, council convened an executive session to review the employment of John Ratliff as a city attorney. I understand there's a motion on this agenda item.
Mayor and council, I make a motion that we increase the city attorney John Ratliff's annual compensation by 5%. The council was very happy, and mayor was very happy with his work so far.
We have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Please vote. And the motion carries 5-0. Do I have a motion for adjournment? Have a motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Fortenbaugh. Warren. Hankins. Harris. Chapman.